Hello.
Hello,
Welcome back to another episode of Wicked.
mysterious.
I'm your host, Danie,
And I am Katie.
and this is episode 15 of season 2.
Wow. How
We
many
made it.
episodes are in our seasons?
I don't know. The first season was a little more than a year, but then the second season has all the minis too.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we got to figure that out.
This is our 30, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
the
try to
minis.
guess
Yeah.
because
It's
I
tough.
really don't know.
They're all episodes. That's all I know.
We do have some, well, I was gonna say small housekeeping, but it's kind of major housekeeping, I guess. So if you want to skip all of this stuff, I'll put links for timestamps in the show notes if you would like to skip our chit chat.
hmm
But a while back, a few months ago, I think now, maybe a month ago or so, I had mentioned that we didn't want to cover missing persons cases or any kind of true crime where there was a victim involved, and
Which is all true crime.
which is all true crime, yeah. I mean, we never wanted to be a true crime podcast, but we
True.
said, if it's super mysterious and it's in line with our content, then we'll do it. But and the reason I wanted to go that way is because I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing and being ethical about it. And it's just something makes me feel bad about using people's trauma as entertainment. But I know but I know that you brought up a good point that it does really limit a lot of the episodes that you wanted to do. So, and some I wanted to do too. I don't know if I still will cover it, but I want to make sure that it's a partnership. So I want to make sure that we're both getting what we want,
Yeah, and I mean, your thing was engaging with empathy after you watched that podcast that you learned from, and I learned from you. So I think as long as we are being intentional with, going forward with empathy in the cases and, maybe having that perspective that, just keeping in mind that the victim is a victim and the families are families of the victim and we don't really know them. And, yeah.
Yeah. And the engage with empathy thing came from it was Media Pressure. It's a podcast by Maura Murray's sister. But to be clear, and to your point, she never said don't cover it. She just said cover it ethically and make sure that, it's good to get the story out there. And some people, you never know, I guess, because I feel like we're still a small podcast, but even if we were big, most of the missing persons stories we cover have been covered a million times. And I don't feel like we're doing anything that's gonna break the case open or anything like that. So I don't really feel like we're helping. But then again, this whole podcast is for entertainment. So I just want to do the right thing. And it's been hard. And I hope people understand that we're just trying to find a balance. And I'm a Libra and this is what we do.
Yeah, the Libras definitely balance. They balance hard. But you do a great job.
I also can't make decisions. So it's I say one thing, but then it's I hear other perspectives and I'm like, well, you're right too. And then I just sway the other way.
Yeah, it's good. It's all good though. It's definitely all learning. And I think we've been doing a really great job, aside for a couple of learning experiences along the way,
Yeah.
But, I think offering, you never know. There really could be one person in that town that did see that one person or, something. You never really know,
Yeah.
So it's worth it to just at least try for the victims too, sometimes when it applies, obviously.
Yeah. And we had talked about doing something like Kendall Ray does, where she um, creates campaigns and stuff, but we quite honestly just don't have the listenership for that yet. But when
Yeah.
we do, um,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do something like that and really make an impact.
Yeah.
So we'll get there, but
Yeah. I agree.
we're
Yeah.
not there yet. But just keep in mind, if you do hear us cover like another missing person or a victim of a crime, just please know, like, I don't know. I get it, and I empathize with the victims, and I just don't want them to ever feel like, oh, here comes another podcast, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is. This is kind of the name of the game at the same time. So
It's true. It's true. So we're here. We're back.
we're
We,
back.
we weren't here last week, but we're back this week.
We had a little blip last week, but we're back now.
Yeah, a little, what did you call it? Unforeseen circumstances.
Yes,
Yes.
unforeseen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. You know, we were thinking about you the whole time. We were thinking about our fans. We were like, we can't be letting them down, but we had to. So we're sorry and we're back. And those that reached out that were worried about us, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, thank you I wasn't expecting people to worry about us, which was actually really nice and
It was.
uplifting.
It was,
Um,
right?
but hey, we have not missed, other than our planned breaks, we haven't missed an episode in a year and a half.
True.
So
True.
I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, we always get it done. So,
So Katie and I both had very rough vacations in different ways, although yours was somewhat relaxing, right?
yeah, most of it was relaxing. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Whereas
sure.
mine
But
was just complete
yeah.
upheaval and not a
Um,
vacation. So, and that's okay. I'm not
yeah,
complaining, but I
no.
think we both had different things going on and both
Yeah.
didn't recognize that the other was struggling. So,
Yeah. And then coming back was just an adjustment too, like,
yeah.
for both of
Yeah,
us in different ways. And yeah. So, but hey, life is life and we're here to talk about it.
that's true. That's true.
What do you got for us today?
Yeah.
Oh, do
All
you have
right.
any more
So,
housekeeping? I'm sorry. Or are you good on that?
no, that was
Okay.
it. Perfect.
Good,
Perfect
good.
transition. So
Okay.
I bring you a very good one that I think you'll like because this is right up your alley.
Ooh.
Okay. In 2006, a 19-year-old man named Sean ran down Hanover Street in Liverpool, England.
Okay.
A security guard was hot on his heels after he had shoplifted from a nearby store. Sean, a known drug user and petty criminal, weaved through the construction sites and roadwork in an attempt to get away. He entered a dead-end alleyway known as Brooks Alley. Realizing he was about to be cornered by the security guard, Sean began to panic. He turned around, and to his amazement, the security guard never rounded the corner into the alleyway. With no way out, Sean hesitantly approached Hanover Street, but something was not right. All signs of roadwork had vanished, and the pavement seemed unfamiliar. All of the people were dressed in strange clothing and driving strange cars. Sean walked from Hanover Street to the intersection at Bold Street, where the recognizable landmarks, stores, and traffic lights had all vanished. Panic set in as it slowly dawned on him that he was no longer in 2006, but was sometime in the past.
Weird. So he must have been able to tell just looking around at his surroundings that it was old stuff?
Yeah. Like the
Cool.
pavement looked different, the street lights, some of them weren't there, different stores, people were dressed different.
Weird.
He pulled out his cell phone and he noticed that he had no signal. He continued down Hanover Street to Ranelagh Street, only a few hundred feet away. Outside of Central Station, he spotted a newspaper stand, and to his sheer terror, the date on the newspapers read May 18th, 1967.
Whoa.
This is the very strange and very mysterious phenomena of time slips. So let's get into it.
Ooh. I like.
All right, so this poor Sean.
Or
In a
Shawnee.
complete panic and having an anxiety attack, Sean ran back to the alley in hopes to be transported back to 2006, but that didn't happen. Sean notes the feeling of homesickness that swept over him. He desperately wanted to go home. He ran up Ranelagh Street again, this time running about a quarter of a mile to the Adelphi Hotel before looking at his phone again. This time he did have service. He looked up and realized he was back in modern surroundings, but looking down Ranelagh Street again, he could see still the scenes of 1967.
What? Okay.
So
Weird.
he ran to this hotel and then he had service and then he
Yep.
looked back down the street to where he had been and it was
Yep.
still 1967 down the street.
And when you say he had service, you mean he was like back to 2006?
Yeah, but then when he looked down the street, it
It
was
was
still
still
1967.
weird.
Yeah, but his immediate surroundings was 2006 again.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very, very, very weird.
right?
And we've also talked about this in the past about how like certain areas can like
Yeah,
maybe,
I'm
yeah,
gonna get
weird.
into that. Yeah.
Cool.
So perhaps you don't trust Sean. I do, but some people just don't trust people with records. So maybe one of the many other time slip stories in this area are right up your alley. No pun intended. The area of
Right?
Bold Street in Liverpool is known as a hotspot of such activity. In
Ooh.
May 2011, a girl named Imogen was out shopping for a gift for her sister who just had a new baby. She was standing at the corner of Whitechapel and Lord Streets, just a quarter mile from Brooks Alley, where Sean experienced the 1967 time slip. Imogen entered a brand new store called Mother Care. She shopped around for gifts for the baby and noted how inexpensive the items were. She assumed that this was because it was some sort of grand opening sale, but when she went to check out, the cashier looked puzzled when she handed her her credit card. The clerk then called her manager, who told Imogen that they do not take that form of payment. Imogen, who
Huh.
had no cash, had to put all of the items back on the racks. When she told her mother what happened, her mother told her that that particular mother care store had closed years ago, and the building was now an HSBC bank. Shocked, the pair visited the location the next day, and her mother was proven correct. When they approached the busy shopping center, an HSBC bank stood where the Mother Care store once was. Mother Care was first founded in 1963, but all stores had closed by 2020. But the one she entered in 2011, was clearly before credit cards were even a thing. The first credit cards started in the 1950s and 60s, but were not widely accepted by merchants until the 70s. Imogen also noticed the staff at Mother Care were dressed in attire from the 50s or 60s.
Wow. That is so crazy.
Yeah. So there was that same store did occupy that building at one time, but
So long ago.
so long ago. Yeah.
So weird.
hmm In 1996, an off-duty police officer named Frank was out shopping with his wife. She went into a bookstore while he headed over into another store to buy a CD. After the CD store, Frank headed down Bold Street toward the bookstore where his wife was, but noticed the storefront had changed. The bookstore sign now read Crips and displayed clothing in the window, not books. Curious, Frank attempted to cross the street and was nearly struck by a truck that displayed a company name of Cardin's. He then noticed that the people around him were dressed strangely, looking like he had just stepped into the 50s or 60s. Outside of the bookstore, he saw a woman in modern clothing looking up at the Crips sign. They both entered the shop together, but inside, the clothing and shoes had disappeared, and the store had reverted back to a bookstore.
Oh
The
my God.
woman, yeah, the woman looked at Frank and shrugged and said, "That was weird. I thought this was a new clothing store."
So weird to experience it with somebody too.
Yeah. Um, you're like reading my mind. It's funny. You just keep going like into what I'm going to say next. But Frank later found out that Crips was actually a store in that exact spot at one time, but it closed down in the 70s. The same with the Cardin's truck. That was a now defunct business in Liverpool that owned various trucks and vans. So,
Okay.
like you said, it's weird that it happened with multiple people. This
Right.
is called a group time slip, where more than one person are witness to the event. Another
Wow.
famous example of a group time slip is known as the Kersey incident. This took place in October 1957 in a rural village some 250 miles from Liverpool, where the other time slips happened.
Wow.
Three British naval cadets, Michael Crowley, Ray Baker, and William Lang, were doing a map reading exercise in Suffolk County. The boys were all only 15 years old. They were supposed to observe targets within the village limits of Kersey, notate a waypoint on their map, and then return back to base. They started walking toward this village and noticed smoke billowing from the chimneys ahead. They could hear church bells ringing in the distance, but as they approached the small village, they began to notice an eerie silence, as if they were enveloped by a deafening stillness. The smoke had stopped coming from the chimneys and the church bells had stopped ringing. Even more strangely, they noticed that the leaves in the trees were bright green, which was much different from the fall scene that they had just been passing through.
Oh, yeah. That would definitely strike you as like right away as different. Yeah.
Yeah. The leaves in the trees were completely still. They heard no wind, no birds, and no birds chirping. In fact, some ducks they could see in a nearby stream were like stuck, completely motionless, as if frozen.
What?
Yeah. The buildings and trees cast no shadows on the ground. The houses had thatched roofs. They were timber framed and they looked to be hand built from medieval times. And they were looking a little worse for wear.
Yeah. That's wild.
The windows on the houses were cloudy with this like greenish smear. And when they peered into one of the homes, they noticed no furniture or people. And then they passed a butcher shop, and one of the boys said, quote, "There were no tables or counters, just two or three whole oxen carcasses which had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. There was a green painted door and windows with smallish glass panes, one at the front and one at the side, rather dirty looking. I remember that as we three looked through that window in disbelief at the green and moldy carcasses, the general feeling was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 the health authorities would allow such conditions?" End quote.
Real.
They could not shake the eerie feeling of being watched, though they saw no people. They were so freaked out that they ran away from the village and up a hill. And then at the top of the hill outside of the village, they could start hearing the church bells again, and the smoke had resumed puffing out of the chimneys. And upon their return, the boys told their superiors, who simply laughed it off.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
William Lang said, quote, "It was a ghost.
A ghost.
Quote.
Ghost. Wait, were you saying a ghost or a goat?
Yeah, ghost.
Ghost. I love it.
William Lang said, quote, "It was a ghost village, so to speak. It was almost as if we had walked back in time. I experienced an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression in Kersey, but also a feeling of unfriendliness and unseen watchers which sent shivers up one's back. I wondered if we'd knocked at a door to ask a question, who might have answered. It doesn't bear thinking about," end quote.
Well, that's kind of like what you were feeling when we went to where did we go? That scary
Freetown
place.
State Forest.
Yeah.
I actually felt this in my yard last night. I'm 99% sure it was an animal, but
You
I
felt
had
something
just
watching you?
yeah, I had just taken my contacts out, and we all know I'm blind as fuck, but I had my glasses on, but my glasses were like dirty, and I went outside to my car to get my book to like read at bed, and I like ran out there and I didn't realize how dark it was.
Yeah.
You know, my driveway is like pitch black, but I don't know, I wasn't like expecting it, and then I just felt like I heard like twigs crunching, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's definitely an
Oh,
animal
yeah.
watching me." It was probably a deer
Creepy.
or something, but
Yeah, probably a deer, but you always think like it could be a wolf
mm,
or a coyote. More likely a coyote.
yeah,
Coyotes. That's what they
coyote.
call them somewhere. Coyotes.
I don't like coyotes or wolves.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that I had a childhood phobia of wolves?
No,
I did.
it doesn't surprise me.
I know, I had like stomach aches over it. It was so ridiculous.
Oh my God. I love it.
Anyway, I don't think it was a wolf, but yes, I do know the feeling of like being watched.
Yeah.
All right, so these poor boys, they didn't really speak of it again until 50 years later when they
50. Damn.
50 when they brought it to the attention of Andrew Mackenzie, a member of the Center for Psychical Research in the
Cool. And they were all
80s.
still alive together and shit?
Yep.
Wow.
So they brought it to the Center for Psychical Research in the 80s, and the story caught Andrew's attention. So he flew to England and interviewed Bill Lang and even walked the same path with him that he had taken some 50 years earlier.
That's
Andrew
cool.
contacted a local historian and was able to confirm that the home that they had seen as a butcher shop had been standing since at least 1350,
What?
right?
Okay.
Yeah. The
Wow.
the historian had also confirmed that it was, in fact, at one time a butcher shop, sometime around 1790. At least like
1790.
1790, that's when it was like confirmed, like they had written or something record that it
Document. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
still a butcher shop at 1790, during 1790, but they figured out that the scene the boys saw had to have been in the 1400s, and they had entered the town during the time of the Black Plague, and
I'm
they,
sorry. The words you're saying are just cracking me up.
I know,
Like,
plague.
I'm sorry, but the Black Plague. I can't. Okay.
How did I say?
Gwo-
Ghost.
Ghost. Ghost. Now I want that to be how we are.
I'm gonna try to remember. They determined this by the fact that Lang did not see a church, and they had figured out that the church had only been half built during the 1400s as the plague had halted the construction. So the base of the church would have been obscured by trees. The green
Oh,
glaze on the windows that they had seen was
yep.
also used in the 1400s.
Okay. But yeah, so the green on the windows, right, is what you just said was not.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a special green glaze that they used only during the 1400s.
Yeah. I definitely believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the houses that they saw had been there since at least 1350. And then the butcher shop was confirmed to be a butcher shop in 1790, probably before that too. And then the church that they did not see was probably
Right.
obstructed due to trees because it was half built, and then the plague stopped the construction altogether. So that's how they determined that these boys probably saw a scene from the 1400s.
Yeah, that's so wild. And they all, like, for them to all still be saying that or bring it up again that later on in life and be like on the same page, you know?
Yeah, so
There's-
one of the guys didn't remember it at all because it had
Okay.
been 50 years ago. And then the
Yeah.
other guy remembered it and confirmed it, but didn't remember as much detail as Bill Lang. He was the one who like couldn't let it go. It just
Yeah.
stuck with
Couldn't
him.
get it out of his head. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Kersey time slip incident sounds eerily like another famous case known as the Versailles incident, which is also known as the Moberly Jourdain incident. So these two women, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were a pair of highly educated headmasters that were visiting Paris in 1901.
Okay.
The Palace of Versailles was built in 1623 by Louis XIII. The palace and its surrounding parks and gardens were designated a World Heritage Site in 1979 because of its importance to the 16th and 17th century art and culture in France. So this is a big tourist attraction and I feel like I should have known what this was, but I didn't. So
No.
throwing that in there for anybody as stupid as me.
Me.
So
Me.
well, now we know. So
Yep.
So these two headmasters go out there, and for some reason they weren't super impressed, but they decided to give it a second shot by visiting some of the gardens that they had missed before. And they wanted to see one called Petit Trianon, which they had missed their first trip. On their way out to the gardens, they missed the path that they were supposed to take and they got lost. And then they began noticing some out of place things that seemed like they were from another time, such as a woman leaning out a window and shaking out a white cloth and an ancient plow outside of an abandoned farmhouse. Charlotte said, quote, everything suddenly looked unnatural and therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in a tapestry.
Mm.
There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees, end quote.
Wow.
So now
Weird.
that's the second time we've heard there's no shadows and no wind and an eerie feeling.
Right. It's almost like yeah, like a
Yeah.
photo or something.
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah, so weird.
The women noted the feeling of the atmosphere changing, describing it as oppressive and dreary. At the edge of the garden, they came across a man in a cloak sitting on a bench. Charlotte described him as, quote, most repulsive, its expression odious. His
Wow.
complexion was dark and rough, end quote.
Oh,
And about that man, Eleanor said, quote, the man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox. His complexion was very dark. The expression was evil, yet unseeing. And although I did not feel he was looking particularly at us, I felt a
yeah.
repugnance going past him, end quote.
Ew, yeah.
Yeah. She also saw a
Yeah,
lady in an
creepy.
old-fashioned, sorry, did you say something?
I said, oh yeah, creepy.
Yeah. She also saw a lady in an old-fashioned dress sitting in the grass sketching, and she believed this woman to be Marie Antoinette. The women wrote a book about their experience, calling it an adventure, but that's the name of the book, by the way, an adventure. But
Huh.
it was widely met with skepticism and downright ridicule. It seemed to not be believed by our friends at the Center for Psychical Research either, calling it an instance of confabulation.
Hmm.
And if
Okay.
you remember, this was discussed in one of your episodes. According to Wikipedia, a confabulation is in psychology a memory error consisting of the production of fabricated, distorted, or misinterpreted memories about oneself or the world. It's generally associated with certain types of brain damage, especially an aneurysm or dementias.
All right. But there was two of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how could that be both for them, you know?
Yeah, they called it something specific. It was like
A
a
biconfabulate from,
yeah, like a
yeah.
duel or something like that.
A dual
Yes,
confabulation.
something like that. Yeah.
Of course they would. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that one, for some reason, just is not believed. Whereas the
Yeah.
other ones, like the Kersey one,
Yeah.
is like taken as fact almost.
Right. Right. Like I think
So
that's even like in Wikipedia, I'm pretty sure.
the Kersey time slip?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It is because I've recognized the name, but I just don't know the story. But I have like seen that name before on
Yeah.
Wikipedia.
Well, now you know the story.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
So time slips, also known as time anomalies or temporal distortions, are moments where an individual suddenly notices that they have spontaneously shifted into a different era.
Okay,
Most of the time.
before you get more into like the scientific like meaning of it, do you have
Yeah.
any more of the stories to share?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because you remember we've talked about this on an episode before that I also had a time slip when I was driving once to I told you this, right? I
With the girl
remember.
picking the berries?
Yes.
Yes.
And she also had a very slow turn of her head as we drove by, and she was like literally like watching us, like tracking us as she turned her head as she stuffed something in her mouth. And I always believed it was a berry. It's so funny that you remembered it as a
Yeah.
berry. But again, just the way everything looked was so unusual. It was like the yard was just like pristine and it was like a hill and she had on that old clothing, like that gown and like almost like a bonnet type of thing with something. Like I said, it wasn't Halloween. It wasn't anything close to Halloween unless she was like in a play. Um, but when I came back and drove back, she was gone and I never knew the answer to that. But I always wondered if it was just like my brain like opening up to that dimension real quick, you know? Like a
Yeah.
little like electrical fire shock in there, like being
Hmm.
like bam. Like you can see into another dimension or into another era or something. It's freaking wild. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't know if you remembered my story.
Yeah, I did. And it's weird that like they've a lot of these people that experience this feel like they're being watched.
Mm.
even if the person isn't looking particularly at them or if they don't see
Yeah.
people at all.
Yeah, I
And it,
just had an incredibly eerie feeling about it. And
yeah,
Mara, my friend Mara was with me. So Mara, if you're listening, you should send us some listener mail and talk about this day. But I do believe Mara also witnessed it and said that she was weird. So like for the both of us to see it, you know,
yeah,
that says something to me.
yeah, definitely.
But also we both were under the same drug at the time. So,
Oh, by the
so
way, I was on drugs.
by the way,
No, but
and
I
then,
don't think like that necessarily
right.
means like you hallucinated it because then it's like, what is a hallucination? Like
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you're really just looking into other dimensions, like,
Right. Right.
you
That's what
know?
I think. That's what I'm really thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
interesting.
anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking like these three young guys, I'm like, were they on something? Were
I
they
don't think,
taking mushrooms?
not that I've heard,
Yeah.
other than the first guy, and they're just like, oh, he's a drug user. Well, like, that doesn't mean,
Because it's just an interesting thought to think that if they were under some sort of hallucinogen, that
yeah,
possibly, like you just said, like maybe your brain opens up to being able to see that other dimension. When normally your brain wouldn't be able to. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And well, we
So
talked about in another episode, I think it was
your Christmas one,
the
right?
Christmas one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been studies done that proved that if you have one um experience with hallucinogens,
Yep.
um, like particularly LSD and other things like that,
Mm-hmm.
or even like DMT,
Mm-hmm.
it opens your brain into new pathways and you don't see the world the same way ever again.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
and that's why they say like it doesn't leave you because it does change you permanently. And
Wow.
I
I
mean, for
never,
the better
yeah.
though. It's
Um,
not like a,
for the better,
it does.
for most, hopefully. I mean, I
Yeah.
was always too chicken to try any of that stuff, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, still am too chicken in my old years. Even
But
worse now.
yeah, people that have done it though report like a feeling of oneness. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't be surprised like if you could now see
Hmm.
other dimensions because they're happening concurrently, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Have to be.
it's just
Yeah.
like there's a veil.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to get you so off topic, but
No, that's okay.
yeah.
So time slips, um, also known as time anomalies or temporal distortions, are moments where an individual suddenly notices that they have spontaneously shifted into a different era. Most of the time, the person is transported to the past, but there are some stories of people being shifted into the future. These instances could be likened to seeing a ghost or perhaps seeing ghost scenes. This is the difference between the phenomena of seeing a ghost and a time slip. So during a
Mm.
time slip, the person also experiences their surroundings change. This also differs from the phenomena of lost time, though
Hmm.
as the person experiencing the time slip doesn't necessarily lose time, they just seem to be transported through time. So it's not
Okay.
like they wake up and they've lost hours or days,
Right.
like with an abduction or something. It's not
Yeah.
like that. It's like the clock is still the same. It's just their surroundings change.
Yeah. They're somewhere else.
Their surroundings change to scenes of the past, houses where there were none, or no house where they expected one to be,
Yep.
fall leaves in the trees suddenly appearing lush and green, and an eerie, unnatural quiet. Most of the time slip cases involve some sort of disconcerting and unsettling feeling,
Hmm.
and they feel like they've just left a dreamlike world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as always, there's a bunch of different theories regarding what's going on.
Right.
A lot of people believe that these time slips occur when people unknowingly walk into a portal.
Yeah.
Um, and fairy rings, which to be discussed in another episode, they're
Hmm.
like a circle of mushrooms that suddenly appear on the ground. And
Hmm.
folklore says that these rings are dangerous to enter and lead directly to the realm of fairies.
Whoa.
Hmm.
Cool.
I
What if
tried to
you,
look up more of like what the folklore about fairy circles said, but I couldn't find a whole lot other than it's like, oh, you're in the realm of fairies, but I don't know why. Like,
it kind of
well,
reminds me of like Zelda for some reason. I don't know why.
yeah, it's like, well, why are the fairies in the past? Like, I don't understand, but
Yeah.
that's a theory.
Hmm.
Retrocognition is another possibility. This is also known as hindsight or postcognition. And this is a form of extrasensory perception where the experiencer witnesses or has knowledge of scenes from the past. The
Hmm.
tough thing, though, about retrocognition is that it's very difficult to prove that someone has the skill. Aside from the viewpoint of the person who experienced it, there's no way to know if they actually did see those things,
Right.
as none of it can be proven. For
Right.
example, in the Versailles incident, the
Yeah.
two women could have said that Marie Antoinette was wearing a specific piece of jewelry, which could then be supported by an expert historian on Marie Antoinette.
Yeah.
But if it's known by one expert, then it's plausible that one of the two women also knew she wore this necklace. So
Mm.
it's not proof that they actually saw into the past. But then
Right.
again, just because a historian can't verify it doesn't mean Marie Antoinette didn't have that necklace.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
Because I'm sure that she had a lot of jewelry, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, they didn't, I'm just using that as an example. They didn't like say that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
another good example of this would be Om Seti, who
Okay.
was thought to be a reincarnated Egyptian. We talked about
Yeah.
her in a past episode.
Yep.
Her story is widely believed mainly because she knew so much deep information that was later verified by Egyptologists.
Right. Right.
And those are things that the Egyptologists even believed that she couldn't know.
Right. Right. And that's the way that was verified. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Or maybe these people are peering into other dimensions. The
Yes.
multiverse theory says that everything exists all at once, concurrent to each other. This includes space, time, physical laws, matter, and energy. So if you believe that time is not linear and the past is happening at the same time as the current moment, then it is plausible that we can accidentally bump into the past because it's not in the past. It's on a timeline running concurrent to ours.
Yeah. It's hard
And
to,
then
yeah.
I didn't write this down, but you know what I was thinking when I was reading through this time around? Like, what if reincarnation is real and your soul can't inhabit two bodies? And that's why they don't see any people. Or at least in the Kersey incident, maybe that's why they didn't see any people.
Wait. I don't get that. Say that again. So I don't get what you just said. Sorry.
I
Say it
don't
again.
either. It was just an
What
idea.
if what if reincarnation is real?
Yeah. So if
Okay, yeah.
reincarnation is real,
Yep.
and what if your soul has lived before in the past,
Yeah.
but when somebody experiences a time slip, they don't see people because those people no longer exist.
Oh.
Their soul is already on a different timeline. But
Hmm.
I don't think that that really could be a thing because they only didn't see people in the Kersey incident. They saw people in all the other
That's true.
ones.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Well, different types, you know?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Okay. Another theory, another one is that this is some sort of haunting and that an energy of an event is stuck at a given place. So we know that the history of a place in which a haunting occurs affects how we perceive the energy there. For
Yep.
example, the area where the Battle of Gettysburg took place is
Mhm.
rife with full-on apparitions and other paranormal activity. This area saw the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, killing 50,000 people in just 3 days.
Yeah, that's harsh.
The Kersey time slip was thought to bring the three young British officers back to a time where there was a great deal of death and suffering during the Black Plague. Interestingly, a study done in 1997 proved the theory that by telling someone an area is haunted, they automatically have more supernatural experiences. But
Hmm.
this could explain many of what we think to be known paranormal areas, like the Battle of Gettysburg or the Conjuring House or like Salem. But in the
Yeah.
Kersey time slip, these boys never mentioned at any time being told that Kersey Village was haunted, nor is it thought to be currently, from what I could find, except
Okay.
for this time slip incident. There's no other like weird stuff.
Hmm.
It's almost like areas with a lot of history, especially history that involves a lot of human suffering, have some sort of trapped energy that keeps replaying over and over, especially in hauntings where an event occurs over and over. Like a woman in period clothing walks down the stairs every night around the same time and then vanishes through a wall, or
Right.
a
Yeah.
ghostly apparition of a man is seen walking the beach before a major storm.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
so in our Halloween episode, I had talked about how my dad told me when I was a kid, something that kind of stuck with me, and I always wondered if it was true. And he said
Mhm.
that energy can be gouged into time, like grooves on a record.
Huh.
So the record just keeps going and going, repeating the same pattern that the grooves dictate forever. Maybe the more energy put into something or the more suffering there is, the more likely the memory is to stick around and be witnessed by people who are sensitive to those energies. But
Yeah.
you never really see or hear of like a happy haunting, right?
No. No. No.
You don't
No.
see like drunk smiling ghosts dancing at a wedding venue
That's true. That's true.
or
Yeah.
like Guido ghosts fist pumping into the night. Like you don't see that. It's like always just doom and gloom.
That's true. That's really true.
So is it like,
It's
I don't
just
know,
bad energy that keeps them around.
I
Like they
guess.
don't pass over. But what is over? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Too
So is it
much.
like, despite the general depressed feeling people notice when they witness a time slip, a lot of these incidents are somewhat mundane. There was no like bloody battlefield inside the mother care store that we know of.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know, like, why would that, why would it like happen all, because that one street in Liverpool, England, Bold Street, has
Yep.
like hundreds of time slip stories.
Yeah. It really makes me wonder if it's just the location,
But why?
like a portal in that one spot or something.
It's like a weak spot in the patchwork
I know.
universe theory, like that like border is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah. Because there's probably like literally spots like that all over, but we just aren't aware of them. There's not enough stories and experiences, you know? But
And we don't hear the other end of it very often either. Nobody's like in 1967, a man in 2016 clothing ran down the street. Like nobody, like that's not like a thing.
yeah, that's definitely true. Have you ever saw the TikTok of the guy walking around the malls and everything with empty
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've read into it and some people kind of like debunk it and they say that like you can see somebody in the background but still it does seem really hard to fake something like that. And in his case, he said that he was transported like ahead of time and not transported time, but like he's I guess would slip time, right? Or he would be I don't know. He time traveled essentially, right? And but it's strange because he's just walking around and I know this episode is on time slips, not time travel, but it's kind of hard to like find
Yeah.
the line because for all we know, it could have been a time slip. Like,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
but it's so strange.
There was another TikTok, like way when I first started using TikTok, like, I don't know, probably like 2020. And it was a guy and he was walking around like it looked like a train station outside though. And
Yeah.
it was like a clock tower and the clock tower had the date. I mean, I guess it's easy to fake, but it's unnerving when you watch something like that and you
Yeah.
can't see how they would have faked it. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I
Like
hope this isn't real.
how does that guy like remove everybody from
Right.
all those public places like hospitals, malls, like, how? It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's just
And I know
crazy.
during COVID too, and if it was during COVID time, like looking back
Mm.
at some of the footage, it's like, wow, I cannot believe Boston was that empty. Like you don't see a
Yeah.
single person.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Yeah.
I think we just like forget how awful it was
Yeah. Yeah.
and how we really didn't go anywhere for a really long time.
So wild. Like if they told us we have to put our underwear on our heads and like hop on one foot, we
You're
probably would have did it. And
you're breaking up really bad. I all I heard was
oh,
put
shit.
underwear on your head and hop on one foot.
You can just delete that out because it doesn't, yeah, just delete it out.
Okay.
It's dumb. But yeah, we were in a really bad spot in COVID and it is hard to like remember, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
But it's like
Yeah.
a dumb spot. That's where we were.
Yep. I agree.
But
All right. So
yeah,
that's it. That's all I've got for you. I hope you enjoyed that.
I did. I did. I really did. I like it. It really mystifies my brain.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yeah. So if you're
So,
interested, check out, there's tons of stories. It was like another one about like a two couples. It was like two husband and wives, and they went to some hotel and they stayed there, and then the hotel was like gone, and it was like from the past. I don't know. I didn't read too much
yeah.
into it, but it's another famous case.
Oh, cool. I was gonna say there's probably a ton of them like on Reddit and shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But of course, we have like nothing to back those up. But I still really enjoy reading people's stories
Oh
because
yeah,
I
definitely.
just say to myself, like, what do these people have to gain by like, I don't
Right.
know,
I know.
just looking crazy, and people thinking they're nuts. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
So I believe it. I
I
believe at
believe
least
it.
some of these.
Cool if true.
Cool if true.
I mean, I witnessed it myself. I
Yeah.
witnessed the time slip.
Imagine if the house was like old and different when you drove by.
I mean, it did feel different, but I was so focused on that girl and it was, probably like 30 miles an hour I was going by. So, I didn't really take in all of the environment, but it did feel very different, like and quiet and eerie and everything. Now that you say that,
Yeah.
just for that moment, it was like hyper focused on her and she being hyper focused on me. It made me
Mm.
feel like there was like a hex put on me.
Ooh.
It did. I had that feeling. Yep. Yep. So I think that goes along with that, like, that just really that gloomy feeling that people explain feeling,
Mm.
depressed feeling. Well, I wasn't depressed because I was fucking having the time of my life,
Yeah,
really.
I wonder if like that depressed feeling that they talk about, like that lady in the Versailles incident said that everything just felt so unnatural, and then therefore that's why it felt so depressed and weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know, something can
Like,
feel unnatural but also cool. Like you're not
yeah,
like, wow,
yeah.
these people are having a great time. It's like these people are very depressed and like eerie, gloomy type thing.
Yeah. We need to have more ghosts having a good time.
Yeah,
We need to have some good time ghosts.
right?
Seriously.
Why are there no happy ghosts?
We would be so much happier in life if we weren't scared of them, you know?
Mm,
So like, I mean, I'm not afraid of them, but there's a lot of people that are, right? And like some people feel like a prisoner in their own home. And it's like if the ghost was just friendly, like Casper,
right?
fucking literally could be like a built-in bestie that's invisible. Like so fucking cool.
Who doesn't want a Casper?
I know.
Can I keep you?
Especially I know, especially Devon Sawa back then.
Right? Oh
Such
my
a
God.
cutie pie. Cutie pie. All right. I
I
think
love
we are.
Devon Sawa.
I
JTT
know.
for life, though.
But JTT did prevail. He always
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. Well, he's a hurting unit now, but
He
I
isn't
guess we all
bad.
are. Yes,
He's
he is.
he's not that bad. I haven't seen like a really recent photo, but he can't be worse than some of the other childhood stars that we have. But it is May now, so that meme of Justin Timberlake that goes around is done because April 29th, April 30th, that's all you see on Facebook is the it's gonna be May
I
meme.
don't like Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, his ramen noodle hair.
Yeah, I used to love him when I was a kid, but
Oh, I like him better now as an adult, but I think something's weird about him. We'll talk
yeah,
about that in another episode.
I think he's mid, as the kids say. My
No
son,
cap.
my son told me today that I was cringe and that I'm
Oh.
getting weirder every day. I'm like, no, I think you're just less tolerant of me every day. And then he said, facts, facts. He said, facts, you're cringe. And I was like, cap.
Cap. No, yeah, no cap. You gotta say no cap, I think. I don't know. I can't
No, I'm
fucking.
not agreeing that I'm cringe. I was saying no cap.
Oh,
I know
okay.
I was
No,
saying
you were
cap.
saying cap.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works like that.
Yeah, that's cap.
Okay. Oh, that's cap. Okay.
Yeah,
I gotta get with the fucking program. Yeah, I really do.
that's all
What
right.
was the one we were using for a while? The funny one we were
Oh,
saying. Oh, that's so
feta.
mozzarella. No, that's so feta.
Feta, yeah.
Remember? Feta. And yeah. All right. Anyway,
The kids fell for that one.
yeah, they did. That's a good one. Feta should be a thing. So
Alrighty.
we will be back at it next Monday,
Yep, with a mini.
and we're not gonna ghost you.
Yep. I got a mini for you.
Yep, it's set in stone. Danny's got a mini, so all right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay, bye. Stay
Stay
mysterious.
mysterious.